In order to turn Mount Rushmore into a reality, Borglum had to figure out how to map his 5-foot model onto the 60-foot cliff edge. He took inspiration from the Greeks, who were able to make identical copies of Roman statues using a pointing machine. This was a tool that could measure specific points on a sculpture relative to a reference point. This could then be transferred onto a different sculpture, giving the artist a guide to carve to. By doing this for thousands of points, the exact shape of the sculpture could be replicated. This worked well for replicas of the same size, but in order to scale up his design, Borglum would have to get creative. He came up with his own pointing machine, which was essentially a metal arm with a weighted point at one end that could swing around a fixed axis. By placing the weighted point somewhere on his model, he could get 3 measurements: the angle of the point, its horizontal distance, and its vertical distance. By simply multiplying these measurements by 12, the exact same point could be transferred onto the mountain. But for that, Borglum would need to make a much larger pointing machine on top of Mount Rushmore. And so that's exactly what he did. Using this giant machine, thousands of points could be marked directly onto the mountain, showing the workers where to drill and exactly how deep they should drill. Instead of carving out the entire part, the workers would drill a series of holes close together in a honeycomb pattern. Then the rock between the holes would be hammered out. After a couple hours of solid drilling, a steel worker would come down on a harness with replacement bits to keep the workers drilling. The work was tough, and the men spent 8 hours a day dangling over a 500-foot cliff edge for just 50 cents an hour. Over the next few years, work progressed, and eventually George Washington's head was done. Borglum had assembled a well-oiled team, and so he turned his attention to the finer details. One of the trickiest parts about the sculpture was the eyes. Typical Greek sculptures have perfectly smooth eyes which look flat and lifeless. To give the eyes a realistic shine, he cut out a hole that was deep enough to always be in shadow. Then, at the center of the pupil, a square section would be left uncut to give the impression of a reflection in the eye. This was an extremely risky process, since the rock could fall under its own weight at any moment. Its effect was amazing, and when viewed from far away, these square sections gave the eyes a shiny texture. To finish off the heads, workers would do a process called bumping, which would smoothen out the surface and pulverize it, turning it into a whiter color. The carving of Mount Rushmore went on for 14 years, but in the end, it was never quite finished. The original plan was to have each president carved down to their waist, and a secret tomb designed with lavish decorations had only just been started when the project came to an end. The Second World War took away all of the attention and money from Mount Rushmore, and just a couple years later, Gutzon Borglum passed away.